In this video series, I've been examining different types of isometric exercises that you can employ, and in this video I want to talk about time and intensity. Now, this is going to touch on a couple of other topics that we'll be talking at length about in the nature of recovery and how isometrics stimulate particular fiber types and what those fiber types represent and what they do for you. Keeping in mind that we're just talking about the different types of isometric exercises and how you can use them, let me talk about isometrics for time and how that affects our intensity. So time affects intensity and intensity affects time, and you have to look at both, so I'll briefly discuss that here. Different authors will recommend different times under isometric tension. Pete Sisko and John Little, who wrote The Art of Expressing the Human Body on Bruce Lee's isometric training methods, for instance, recommend as little as 5 seconds. Mueller and Hettinger, who did a huge amount of the studies on the science of isometrics and determined it to be the best form of strength training and body transformation that you could achieve, recommend upwards of 10 seconds. Steve Justa recommends isometric holds of longer than 3 minutes, as does Matt Fury and Schroeder. Bruce Lee himself varied between 7 seconds and 8 hours, and yes, Bruce Lee performed an 8-hour isometric hold. He basically did a single arm extension, holding a weight in his outstretched arm, and he held it there for 8 solid hours, according to legend. Now, how this affects intensity is, well, intensity and fiber stimulation are dependent on your time. You can hold a very intense isometric contraction with anything from 1 to 100% intensity. So you can use a very light isometric contraction. I'm holding my finger. This is an isometric contraction. The joint and the muscle angle has not changed, but I'm not going to build massive, huge fingers. On the other hand, if I'm resisting against the full weight of my arm trying to press that back, that will build a huge amount of strength, and that's obviously a far more intense contraction than simply holding it here against this. This is a more intense contraction. This is a more intense contraction. This is a hugely intense contraction. So, depending on how hard you're contracting, that will affect the time. Steve Justa, for instance, recommends 35% of your maximum resistance and hold for long periods of time. You find an awful lot of this in the martial arts, of which I'm a student, so there's a huge amount of those types of contractions built into these natural forms of exercise. The same is true in yoga. There will also be a holding of isometric contractions for an extended period of time, but at a much lower rate of intensity. Pete Sisko and Little advocate max contractions of 90 to 100% of the muscle's possible contractile force for about 5 to 7 seconds. I personally recommend 7 to 12 second contraction. Now, the reason for this is the majority of people starting these exercises simply can't produce a full muscle contraction. Even with the best of intention and really trying your hardest, at most, beginner students will produce perhaps an 80% contraction. So a few additional seconds, I think, gives them time to really rev it in and build up that tension. And studies now show that a massive maximal contraction of 1/4 of a second could be enough to stimulate growth and strength increases. So you can use timed isometrics within your workouts. So in one of the previous examples, I talked about pull-ups and a paused isometric. So what you can then do is, in your pull-up routine, you can simply hang at a 90-degree position and hold that. And that's going to be a powerful contraction on your forearms, obviously, because they're gripping. Your biceps maintaining this 90-degree angle. Your lats maintaining compression of the shoulder, pulling that down. So you can hold that contraction for a certain period of time, and you can then increase or decrease the time of that contraction depending on the level of intensity that you want to use. And different levels of intensities have different effects physiologically in terms of muscle building or endurance, strength, explosive power. All of these attributes can be developed using isometrics, but you need different times, and I'll talk about that in a future video. So with all of that in mind, I want to finally finish out on a concept of combined isometrics. So we've talked about paused and yielding isometrics, we've talked about time-based isometrics, we've talked about overcoming isometrics, and you can do alternating max lifts and martial arts-based isometrics, and all of these can be integrated into your current workout program right now, be that body weight, machine-based, free weight, it doesn't matter. And you can use isometrics to completely revolutionize, rejuvenate your workout routine and supercharge your results. So this is what I want you to do next. I want you to click on the link for this article, because I'm going to go through all of these things again and in a little bit more detail and give you a couple more ideas. And then sign up for my isometric training newsletter, because I give you weekly tips and tricks and new articles and new videos and exercise guides and stuff like that, and new routines that you can try out and add into your current workouts, or just use as a standalone workout to get in the best possible shape of your life. If you're on Facebook, sign up to my Facebook page. Links here. It's really cool. I post stuff there every day: motivational images, workout routines, new exercises, sneak peeks of upcoming programs that I've designed. Really good, really cool stuff. Check that out. It's good fun, and of course I answer your questions there. So I do daily Q&As and all sorts of stuff like that. And of course, if you really want to get into the best possible shape of your life, check out my Isometric Beginners program. It's called 7 Seconds to a Perfect Body, because that is literally all it takes to get the body of your dreams. 7 seconds, concentrated isometrics. Oh my God, you will be astounded at the results. And I have a link to that right here. So check that out, and I'll be back with more videos. See you then.